Hey guys, so today we learned about dividing polynomials using long division. So I'm going to go ahead and do problem number 6 for us from our homework for tonight, 9.1. And we're going to be using long division. So here we go. So for this problem, first thing we have to do is notice that this thing is all out of order. So when we go to write it, so that we can use long division, we have to put it all back in the right order. So our highest power of n is n to the fourth power. So we have to start with that. And then from there we have to look and see, okay, are there any n to the third powers? And there is not, so we have to make sure we make a hole for that. We have to make a space for it, so we have to add 0 n to the third power. And then we have minus 4n squared minus 9n, and then minus 24. Okay. And so then we also have 2 plus n, but that's also out of order. It needs to be n plus 2. Okay. So now we've got our problem all set up correctly, and we just have to use long division. So here we go. So in order to get n to the fourth, we have to think, okay, what would I multiply n by to get n to the fourth? Well, n times n to the third power would be n to the fourth power. So we're going to put n to the third power there. So n to the third times n is n to the fourth. And then 2 times n to the third power is just going to be 2n to the third power. Now we have to subtract these things. So n to the fourth minus n to the fourth is 0. 0n to the third power minus 2n to the third power is going to be negative 2n to the third power. So we have to be careful with our signs here. We are subtracting. Okay. So now we have to bring down our minus 4n squared, bring down the next term. And we have to repeat this process all over again. So we're looking at what can we multiply n by to get negative 2n to the third power this time. And that is going to be negative 2n to the second power. Because when we multiply these, we get negative 2n to the third power. And then when we multiply these, we get minus 4n to the second power. All right. So now we're going to do that same process. We're going to subtract. And these subtract to get 0. These also subtract to get 0, because whenever you take the same thing away from itself, you get 0. All right. So we're going to keep going with this process. We're going to bring down our next term, minus 9n. So from here, we're thinking, okay, what can I multiply n by to get 0n squared? Well, that's just going to be 0n, right? You can multiply something by 0 to get 0. All right, so 0n times n would be 0n squared. 0n times 2 is going to be 0n again. So we're going to subtract these. And so 0 minus 0 is 0. Negative 9n minus 0n is also just going to stay negative 9n. All right, so that was a little bit of a weird step with the zeros, but we made it through. So now we're going to bring down our last term, minus 24. And we also, so now we have to repeat this process. We have n and we have negative 9n. We're thinking, what can we multiply n by to get it to be negative 9n? Well, that would just be negative 9. So negative 9 times n is negative 9n. Negative 9 times 2 is negative 18. All right, so now we're subtracting these things again. So these subtract and get 0. These subtract, and you actually get -6. Because subtracting a negative is just like adding a positive. So if you want to, you can change that into a plus to remind yourself. All right, so now we have this remainder here. And what we're going to do with the remainder is we're going to take our remainder and divide it by our divisor so that it's represented with our answer there. So we have -6 over n plus 2. So our final answer, after all that work, is going to look like this. We'll have n cubed minus 2n squared. And then we have the 0n that we can leave out if we want to, or we can keep it. -9 minus 6 over n plus 2 would be the cleaned up way to write it. All right, so hopefully that helped. Thanks for watching.